What's up, everybody? This is Magister Hodges, and this is a video going over a basic overview of all the grammar that we've gone over in the first semester of Latin 1. I'm going to try and keep it simple. I'm going to try and keep it quick. I'm going to try and keep it short. If you have questions, message me on It's Learning. We're going to start here. So, Latin grammar is all about the endings of words. The ending of a word tells you what a noun is doing in a sentence, whether it's the subject doing the action, or the direct object receiving the action, or the object of a preposition telling you where something is, and those among several other things. So what we're going to do is go over the different endings, what they mean, and it is your job to kind of commit them to memory, keep them in your head, and just know how they're used. So, nouns will change their endings depending on two things. Like I said, their function in a sentence, as well as whether they are singular or plural. Similar to in English, how we say car for one car, or cars, or cars for a bunch of cars. The function in a sentence changes similar to how we say, like, oops, I go to the store, and that'd be I'm doing the action, so I say I. But in a sentence like he punched me, I'm the direct object, and I isn't, you don't say he punched I, you say he punched me. So the word changes entirely depending on if it's a direct object. This is something we do without thinking about it. In Latin, eventually the goal is for you to do it without thinking about it, or at least be able to read it without thinking too much about it. But for right now, you have to put a lot of thinking into it. So we have, why does this keep happening? We have 3 sets of, good Lord, dumpster fire. All right, there it is. So we have 3 endings we're going to look at today, 2 of which are way more important than the third. So the 2 important ones are your nominative and accusative endings. A noun will have a nominative ending if it's the subject doing the action in a sentence. And it'll have what's called an accusative ending if it's the direct object receiving the action in a sentence. Keeping these terms in mind and what they mean is important. There is literally a question about it on the midterm. Ablative endings, we haven't learned explicitly too much about yet, but you have seen prepositional phrases. Those are phrases which in English would look like in the house, on the car, next to the person. They're little phrases that tell you where something is in time and space. They're made up of a preposition like in, on, or besides. A word that tells you what direction something is. And then the object of a preposition, like I said, in the car, on the house. Car and house would be objects of a preposition. You will see those words in the with an ablative ending. You will not be tested on your knowledge of these, but you do see them in your translations and readings. And so I just want you to know what you're looking at. Right. So, as we remember, nouns are also broken into declensions. Declensions are different families of nouns that share similar case endings. Cases like nominative case, accusative, and ablative case. So a first declension noun will follow these endings. When it is nominative singular, it'll end with an A. If it is nominative and plural, and remember, nominative means it's the subject or doing the action. If it's plural, it'll be AE. So if I want to say one dinner, the dinner is good. I would say cena est bona. Cena is the subject. If I want to say the dinners are good, I would say canae sunt bonae. If I want to say I taste the dinner, then I would change the ending to canam, and this is the accusative ending, and I would change it to the accusative ending because it's receiving the action. Ego canam gusto. I taste the dinner. Since the dinner is the thing being tasted, it'll have an accusative ending. Now, these italicized versions over here you will not see yet, but I just wanted them here. This is just what a direct object looks like when it's plural. If I want to say I tasted the dinners, I would say ego canas gusto. And then lastly, if I want to say there is a dog in the dinner, I would say canis est in cana. Has that long A on it. You'll see it pop up a lot. There's nothing special to translating these. You just combine it with the word before it, as you do normally. So I'm not going to explain it too much more. This is what it looks like when it's plural. So first declension nouns, you can recognize them because they share A endings. First letter, first declension. Ah, I, os, is. All right, then the second declension is broken up into two separate families. One is second declension masculine. This is what you see most of the time. If a second, and we won't worry too much about masculine, feminine, or neuter for right now, outside of just the fact that you will see them change their ending slightly in the second declension. Second declension masculine is way more common. So a word like kibus, food. Kibus, the US ending, is the nominative second declension singular ending. Kibi is the nominative plural ending in the second declension. So if I want to say the food is good, I would say kibus est bonus. If I want to say the foods are good, I would say kibi sunt boni. Accusative, if I want to say I taste the food, I would say ego kibum gusto, because um is the accusative ending of the second declension. Kibos is plural. We're not going to, like I said, we're not worrying about the italics. If I want to say there is a dog in the food, I would say canis est in kibo. That's the ablative. Second declension neuter nouns, there's only a few that we know right now. And you'll notice that the major difference is that instead of the the nominative endings being us and I, the nominative endings are um and a. You'll also notice that the nominative and accusative endings are the same in the singular and plural. And that is the case for all neuter nouns. Their neuter looks the same as their their neuter nominative looks the same as their accusative. So we're not going to worry too much about that. You'll see if I want to say like the wine is good, I would say vinum est bonum. If I want to say I taste the wine, I would say ego vinum gusto. If I want to say the wines are good, I would say vina sunt bona. If I want to say there's a dog in the wine, I would say canis est in vino. Then we have the third declension, which can be a little bit confusing simply because of its nominative. The third declension, you'll notice the endings are is, im, e, and s are the ones we need to worry about. However, this first one, you'll notice there's no underline under the is. The third declension nominative singular can have any ending. It can literally be any letter. You'll see other examples of third declension words include grumio, sinex, mercator, which end with an O, an X, and an R, respectively. IS is very common ending, but there's no just one ending for the nominative. So it's kind of a process of elimination. If you don't see it elsewhere, then it's probably third declension. Another thing is the third declension is the most common. Most nouns in the Latin language belong to the third declension. So regardless of what the nominative ending is, the accusative, ablative, and nominative plural endings are pretty consistent. So if I want to say the dog is good, I would say canis est bonus. If I want to say the dogs are good, I would say canes sunt boni. If I wanted to say I see the dog, I would say ego canem video. Oops. If I wanted to say there is if I wanted to say I'm walking away from the dog, I would say ego ab cane ambulo. So you'll notice with the third declension, even though the nominative ending can be anything, you'll see e's in all the other endings. Canem, canes, cane. And that's kind of how you can see it. First declension is defined by a plurality of a's. You see a bunch of a's in it. Second declension has a lot of u's and i's and o's, even when it's plural, and or even when it's neuter. And when it's neuter, its plural changes to a instead of I. In the third declension, you'll see a lot of e's, and the nominative can be super funky. So let's look how this works in practice. Oh wait, no. So now we've talked about nouns. Now we need to talk about verbs. Okay. So verbs, like nouns, also change their endings, but these change their endings based on one thing and one thing only, and that is the subject of the sentence, which is going to be the noun in the nominative case. Similar in English to how we say in English, I am, or you are, he is, or they are, you'll notice it changes depending on who the subject is. I can't say I are or I is. I guess technically you can, just people will look at you weird. We would even know what you were saying, but it would sound wrong. And the listener would also probably focus so much on the fact you're saying it wrong, they wouldn't even pay attention to what you were saying. So Latin works the same way, but like nouns, it's all about the ending. So if I am the subject, then the verb will end with an O. If you are the subject, then a verb will end with S. If he, she, or it, or a nominative singular noun is the subject, then the verb will end with a T. And if they, or a nominative plural noun is the subject, the verb will end with NT. This is true. These endings will appear on most verbs. There are some irregulars, and the one that we need to worry about is how you say I am, you are, he is, and they are. Sum means I am. S means you are. Est means he, she, or it, or a name is, and sunt means they are. Like earlier, we're not going to worry about the italics right now, how we say we are and y'all are. But those are just there so you know them. So let's look at this in practice. All right, so we have ego amicum meum video. Ego means I, and so this verb will end with an O. Since I am the subject, the verb ends with O. I see my friend. Tu amicum meum vides. Tu means you, so the verb will end with an S. You see my friend. Caecilius amicum meum videt. There's only one Caecilius, and I could replace him with a he, she, or it much easier than I could replace him with an I or you. So the verb will end with T. Caecilius, also note, ends with US. That is second declension, nominative singular. So this is saying Caecilius sees my friend. And then lastly, once this box goes away, there it is. You'll see pueri amicum meum vident. Pueri is plural for boys. You can tell it's plural because it ends with an I. That's the second declension nominative plural ending. Pueri amicum meum vident. The boys see my friend. Once again, here are the answers. Here's some other example sentences to show the difference between singular and plural. The slave girl in the street sees the house. The slave girls in the street see the houses. So the word for slave girl is ankila. That's the nominative singular. If it were to become plural, it would turn into ankilai. Ankila in via, videt, vilam. There's a lot of V's going on. Take a second, hit the pause button, and see if you can translate these into Latin. When you're ready, resume the video. All right. So here are the answers. You'll see here ankila and ankilai, nominative singular, nominative plural. In via, ablative singular right here because we're saying in the street. That's a prepositional phrase, and this is your object of the preposition. Wilam ends with an am because the thing being seen. Ankila and wilam, videt. The slave girl sees the house in the street. The slave girl in the street sees the house. That makes a lot more sense. These are all the same thing, but notice how the endings change when they're plural. A turns into ae, a turns into is, turns into as, and most importantly, the t turns into nt. I'm not going to go through the rest of these because I'm running out of time, but you can pause and kind of notice the differences. The most important differences for y'all's test is that you need to notice that if the subject is singular, then the verb will end with a T, and if it's plural, it'll end with an NT, unless the subject is I, in which case it would end with an I, or you, in which case it'll end with an S. These are grouped by declension, so this is an example of all first declension words and how they change. These are all second declension. Notice how they change. And these are all second declension. Notice how they change. Third declension. Notice how they change. Additionally, it is helpful to notice that the thing receiving the action, in this case, the thing being greeted, salutat, is a dominum, so a master. So the slave greets the master in the garden. The slaves greet the masters in the garden. So if you notice that the nominative is there, and this is for the fill-in-the-blank questions, if you notice a nominative is there and a verb is there, then the thing missing will probably be accusative. You'll notice also the accusative singular endings all end with M, AM, UM, EM. And overall, that's my crash course back through Latin 1's grammar through the midterm. If you have any questions, message me. I hope this was helpful. Please see the practice sentences and the practice questions and let me know what issues you have. Walete.